Heavens, I assure you, Father, the heavens didn't send me.
Greetings, Crusaders. Today, I want to look into the insights and Easter eggs that were hidden throughout the Rogues trailer from BlizzConline in February. With the 4th class's announcement came a new string of information ripe for the picking. And much like Dash's video where he examined the Diablo IV reveal cinematic at a quarter speed, I slowed everything down to really get a close examination on every little nuance peppered throughout the trailer. And so, with no further delay, let's begin. The False Church of Light. As the trailer opens, we see in stained glass relief the now familiar cross of the Zakarum, which we've seen in several trailers and screenshots now, and was born upon the very church in the D4 cinematic, which held in secret a multitude of triune symbols, statues, and of course, Lilith summoning room. As we scroll down the back wall, we take notice of the imagery as a male voice utters words of assurity to what can only be assumed is a female parishioner.
Your prayers do not fall on deaf ears. Just know they are being heard. There is justice within the light, but you have to be patient. Now, pray with me. May Akarat guide and protect me.
May Akarat guide and protect me.
May he shepherd my soul
May he shepherd my soul.
and grant it mercy.
The mural upon the wall is very different from the typical imagery one normally sees in churches like this. For a church of light, there is dark imagery upon the walls, horned, winged creatures at war that can only be described as humanity, and at the center of it, a shrouded figure that suspiciously resembles Malthael, even bearing his signature hooked armor and wispy wings, and skeletal torso resembling the motif of death hangs there with just above him a sinister face lightly obscured by the light on the wall. Toward the end of the scene, we see 2 sainted statues with a multitude of swords driven through their chests, framing a cupboard upon the altar adorned by peaceful, praying saints. And if you look at the bottom, there are these images of snakes. Why snakes? What kind of church is this? What is it hiding behind such depraved imagery in a supposedly holy place? The final insight here is the emblem held in the priest's hand, a red Zakarum cross. This will come back around later. Further along, the priest is joined by a figure that is revealed to be the Rogue, who seems very familiar to him, and soon reveals that she is a mercenary working for him as he responds to her question.
I am a thief, a heretic, a murderer, Father. Will Akarat save me?
You mock our light. But those monsters were a scourge upon my flock. And you were the answer to their prayers.
Then we are settled, and you owe me.
The name you seek is... Thank the heavens for you.
Heavens, I assure you, Father, the heavens didn't send me.
In the midst of this reveal, we see flashes of the rogue's activities, whether stealing, attacking from the shadows with bow and arrow, or even besting a barbarian brute with skill over strength. But it's what happens at the end of these flashes that is most intriguing. The first comes when the rogue goes to strike down the barbarian. The priest suddenly speaks up and demands that she stop retelling her tale. He says, "Stop! Stop!" almost as though it disturbs him, or perhaps even he wants to keep it on the hush. This is made even more evident when she appears in the church behind him and he says they're not supposed to meet there. This will come back into the picture at the end of the video, but here we take note of the exchange of ears. Ears, as we know in Diablo, are rewards from killing players in player versus player combat. And PvP in Diablo IV has been revealed to be due to the presence of Mephisto's hatred bubbling up from the burning hells and infecting certain areas of Sanctuary. I'll cover this more in another video, but keep that in mind for now. When last we see the rogue before she throws on her hood and walks off, we take note at her own loss of ear. But what's interesting beyond the prospect of her being a victim of player versus player activity is that the scar left from the trauma resembles a noted mark of the Zakarum, which is revealed in the Book of Tyrael. Now this may be purely anecdotal, or it may be the designers giving us a little visual information. The rogue in action. After the opening scene, we break to gameplay, displaying in several locations the rogue's aptitude and abilities, as well as more visual information on what we can expect in these playable regions of the Eastern Continent. In Skalskullen, with the rolling hills and lush greenery of the highlands being soaked in the blood of the locals, the rogue turns the tide, raining arrows in the Korbok crypts and dashing through scores of Khazra and bloated undead which looks to be controlled by a large red spider, flashing her blades at high speeds, even diving through one Khazra mauler and splitting him in half, his viscera spilling out into the moors. In the dry steppes, the desolate scenery bloodied by human bodies impaled on spikes and clusters, the rogue fights through the legions of the fallen and demonic red spiders before heading into the active volcano, the Reach of Fulmination, which according to the devs can erupt and affect the player. Which is an interesting design because consider that you're a player running around or even a hardcore character and suddenly the volcano erupts and a big old lava rock kills you. Well, there goes your character. The frozen fractured peaks present the rogue with blistering conditions, an area for player versus player combat and religious sites that are infested with fallen. The symbol of the sun being present in such a place, a constant symbol also seen in the Zakarum city of Travancore. So once again, building on more and more Zakarum presence throughout the world, that seems to be in disarray. In Kyrgyzstan, the people of one of the desert cities going about their daily lives, likely Lower Chaldeum or Lut Bahadur, and some incarcerated even in these already uncertain deadly times. The bleak swamps of Hawazar hiding dark secrets beneath the surface, which is where we get our first peek at Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish, at least outside of concept art form. And look, she's not tied to any big contraption. I wonder how that played out. And in dank demonic dungeons, which we've also seen with statues of Mephisto and Baal in concept work, deep within old Triune ruins, we see the rogue using skills that aid her in crowd control, like barrages of phantom arrows and caltrops in a ghoul-occupied Crusader cathedral, lending more credence to the theory of the ruination of the Zakarum. This is all building on the idea that somehow the Zakarum have really lost their way from the D4 trailer into this one. Aftermath. Okay, let's look back for just a moment. At first we see the priest in a rather unorthodox and a bit of an unsettling church, praying with one of his flock, one of his parishioners, when the rogue sits behind him, unnerving the churchgoer and upsetting the priest by her mere presence at this time. And next he looks uneasy as he lays the ears of the slain just behind him on the back frame of the pew upon which he sits. And then he demands she stop her recanting of her tale, which we can only assume she was doing verbally as we were being shown in a cinematic fashion. And this all played out in the first scene. And so now we arrive here at the ending. The priest goes to the chest and reveals the cross he was holding in his hands was a key all along. And as he opens the chest, the nature of the ears presented to him becomes evident. He's collected them like they were a set to be gathered, hiring the rogue to assassinate these figures and under the guise that they were false figures endangering his flock. I mean, a merchant, guards, and a barbarian. How were these people endangering his flock? Why do I feel that he's hiding the truth? Simply look back at the shady way he handled the rogue's appearance, and other points I brought up before. He's masking his activities with those of a seemingly normal devout priest merely going about his day-to-day duties, masking such dark motives. And if you need more proof of this, simply pay attention to the correlation between the nature of player versus player combat in Diablo IV and the reverent saints upon the surface of the chest, which hide a depiction of a priest holding a dagger behind closed doors. The return of the rogue was certainly unexpected, but for those seeking a fast-paced DPS or ranged opposition, this is the class for you. The return of the D1 Rogue throws into sharp understanding as to how the rogues fared after Andariel routed them in D2, and I will be covering their war in another video, which was alluded to in my first edit, so be sure to check that out. And as far as the final class to be announced is concerned, well, that too may have to wait for another day, for only the sightless eye can see that answer, and that may yet be in Andariel's grasp. And that's going to do it for the video, guys. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell to be updated when upcoming videos drop, and join the conversation on Discord, links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, travel well.